On today's episode of 1861, the North Central College podcast, we're talking marketing and so much more. Our guest is Dr. Carly Drake, Associate Professor of Marketing. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. So glad to have you as the first faculty member to appear on the podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Hopefully I'm the first of many faculty members coming on board because there's a lot of interesting people on campus.
There are. I agree with you. Carly, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I came to North Central in 2019. I moved here from Canada following my PhD, and I've lived here ever since. So this is the start of my 7th year at North Central, and I'm kind of on a new journey, I guess. I've just reached a new phase of my professor career post-tenure, and I'm really excited to keep teaching, doing research, and serving my students and community with some newfound energy.
Well, congratulations. Very happy for you.
Thank you so much.
So where did you go to school? Tell us about your undergraduate experience, your graduate experience.
Yeah, I went to school for all 3 degrees in Canada, and we have a pretty different system up there in the sense that I'm really happy to be working at a small private institution now, but in Canada, it's mostly large public institutions. So very different environment, but they all served me really well. I started off doing a undergrad in journalism and political science. And then I really enjoyed the writing and storytelling aspect of that, but really latched onto the politics side of things. And that led me to do a master's in international development studies. And writing my thesis for that program really made me see that research is kind of a long form version of journalism in a sense. So I do qualitative research, and for that degree, I interviewed immigrant women who had food businesses in the city where I was living, Halifax, Nova Scotia, right on the east coast of Canada. And I loved being able to tell their stories and really meditate on what they were saying and coming to conclusions that could hopefully help immigrant serving agencies, policymakers, and other academics. So I ended up applying to do my PhD in entrepreneurship at the University of Calgary, and nobody wanted to take me on as a student, but my PhD supervisor in marketing ended up poaching my application from the entrepreneurship pilot, calling me at my job and saying, I think you might be a marketer instead. And that was a really cool experience. I kind of took a chance on marketing, just like he took a chance on me as a marketing student. But I realized through that process that I could really study anything I wanted to within the lens of marketing, because I think, as we'll get into here, everything is marketing all around us all the time. So my niche ended up being outside of entrepreneurship entirely, and I mainly focus now on gender, bodies, and fitness culture. I do, as I mentioned, qualitative research. So I interview people, I tell their stories that way, but I also do visual methods, which is really interesting in marketing because we look at, all of these images from companies that we're bombarded with all the time and really dissect on a micro level, what are they saying about what it means to be a woman, what it means to have a body, what it means to exist in the fitness space. So that brought me to North Central, and I'm happy to be teaching undergraduates everything from the basics of marketing to the very specific, this is how you tell your own story on the internet.
Yeah, thank you. So going through your doctoral work, how long did that take? How long a process, and how did that evolve over time for you?
Yeah, so a PhD in my field is about 5 years. You do 2-ish years of coursework, so learning a bunch of different topics around your field. So I studied mainly in marketing, consumer behavior, but also I studied a lot of management. So things like international business strategy. I also studied organizational behavior more on the micro level. And then after you've done your coursework, then you have to do what's called the candidacy exam. And you basically have to prove like, okay, I've learned some stuff. And once you've proved that you've learned some stuff, you can work on your own research, and you write a dissertation from there. So my dissertation's sitting across my office from me. It's about 3 inches thick. I spent 2 years interviewing women who run and talking to them about their relationships with their bodies, their relationship with their sport, and also the way that they interact with images of women's bodies in fitness media. So I determined through that not only what the fitness media is saying, but how it's being perceived, how women are incorporating it into their sense of self, and the way that they live in their bodies. And that really set the stage for everything that I'm doing now, which is what a PhD is for. It's I've heard it referred to as an apprenticeship. So you are kind of watched very closely for a long time. And then hopefully when somebody says, all right, you're a professor now, you know what to do, which is more or less true depending on the day.
So what did you learn as you were doing the research? What are some key things that you took away?
Well, I learned that a lot of consumers will tell you that they are not affected by advertising. And this is now part of a larger literature talking about people's strategies of kind of distancing themselves from marketing. One of the first things that I remember studying in my field, and remember, I don't have a background in marketing, so I went in very fresh and new to this discipline. One of the first things that I learned was that, being a consumer in this modern age is kind of like existing in Times Square on New Year's Eve. We are
What a wonderful analogy. What a wonderful analogy.
It really stuck with me, and it's not my own. I can't remember who said it, but it will stick with me forever. And that's kind of what I'm approaching my interview subjects with, that context of, like, so in order for us to say that we're not affected, I just don't think it could be true. But why do we say we're not affected? I think it kind of makes us sound like cultural dupes, if you will, if we say, oh yeah, this advertising affects my body image, or advertising makes me buy things, makes you sound kind of less rational than we want to appear in modern society. So unpacking what my participants were telling me, I found that they had actually taken up a lot of strategies for how to filter advertising messages about the body through their own way of thinking. So images of sportswomen's bodies in fitness media will show you like top athletes or fitness models whose lifestyles, diets, exercise regimes are a lot different than the average, recreational athlete. So for my participants who are looking at these materials, they're often saying, well, this is inspiring me to get out and go for a run. But I know that this is not necessarily real life. And it's not something I should aspire to because these people are well lit. Some of them are like oiled up to make them look especially shiny and muscular. They have a completely different routine than me. And then very importantly, a quote that sticks with me from one of my participants: I really like pizza. So the way the participants are talking to each other, to themselves about advertisements, I think to them comes up as, I'm not influenced by advertising, but to me shows up as, I've developed a lot of complex strategies on how to exist in a world where it feels like I'm in Times Square on New Year's Eve all the time.
Thank you. It's really fascinating to hear that, and that's all as you're going through the process of completing a PhD. So you earn a PhD, and it seems to me you have a lot of choices. Why did you choose teaching?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a happy accident. I first kind of got an inkling that I would enjoy teaching when I was a master's student, and I just needed some extra money, as one does. So I applied to be a teaching assistant, which is, we don't really have it so much at North Central in the same sense. We would call them preceptors here, but I would lead my own labs for these sustainability classes. And they were very interdisciplinary classes. So On any given day, I could be instructing my little lab of students on how to do an art project that's kind of depicting sustainability themes. Or there was a couple times where I was leading an actual scientific experiment for them, which for a marketing professor now, that's so beyond my wheelhouse. But at the time, it was really fun. So I really enjoyed these connections that I had with students. I remember, laughing a lot with them, helping them through difficult times, to the point where once I'd realized that a traditional 9 to 5 job wasn't for me, and I started thinking about becoming a professor, those memories of being in the classroom as a teaching assistant really stuck with me. I think I came to graduate school more so from wanting to be a researcher. Again, going back to my roots in journalism, that telling a story is so important to me. But teaching became, as I'm saying, kind of a happy accident and a surprise. And today it's the thing that I spend the most time on in my job. And so I've seen so many different students through so many different walks of life, that I couldn't have planned this when I was younger. I couldn't have really planned this even when I was a PhD student, but it's been a really cool turn of events.
So hearing you talk, you made the comment earlier that marketing is really everywhere. So tell us, what is marketing?
Marketing to me is really political. And I think that's coming from my academic background. And I had a politics teacher in my first year of my undergrad who told me that politics is who gets what, when, where, why, and how. And that's the best definition of politics I've ever heard. So the way that I see marketing is that marketing is very much the same. Marketing is in a market, a consumer context, who gets what, where, when, why, and how. So a lot of people think that marketing is advertising. Marketing is really the whole scale of taking a product idea or even a pre-idea, figuring out who wants it, how to get it to them, where, when, why, and how. So it is advertising the product at some point, but it's also cultivating relationships. It's figuring out, what is this product going to be? Who's going to buy it? And then all the way down to taking care of and nurturing these relationships with customers, and troubleshooting through hard times. So going back to that idea of marketing is political, if we only have a finite amount of resources as a company or as a marketplace of many companies, some people within a marketing system will get plenty. Some people will get a lot less. Some people won't like what they get. And some people might be excluded from the marketplace entirely. So from my background in political science, international development, I tend not to come at what is marketing in terms of selling widgets. I tend to look at it in terms of the relationship between marketing, markets, and consumers. How are we all working together to make sure people get what they need, or unfortunately not?
What classes do you teach?
I teach primarily 2 senior level marketing classes that are for marketing majors or minors. One is integrated marketing communication. The other is digital marketing. That's kind of my, I guess, bread and butter, if you will, and the way that I've kind of carved out a specialty here. So one of those classes, integrated marketing communication, or IMC, really looks at that whole systems approach of not just advertising a product, but creating that whole ecosystem around it. And then the digital marketing is very similar, but all online, tapping into online conversations to hear and listen to what people need, and then creating that for them and promoting it.
So how do you bring students along in the journey of understanding marketing? You've defined it for us so well. How do you bring students along through that journey?
I tell them broadly at the very beginning that marketing, again, is so much more than selling widgets, and that I will not teach marketing that way. So I think it would be disingenuous for me to focus maybe more on the product side of things, just because, as I've said, it's not the way that I think about marketing. So I teach them everything that they could need to possibly sell widgets in the future. But I focus mainly on teaching them to sell ideas. So in the IMC class, they are doing what's called a social marketing campaign, where instead of coming up with a product and figuring out how to sell it, they choose a new idea or a new behavior that they then try to sell to their peers across campus. So we have what I've called a social marketing fair at the end of every semester. And it's like a science fair, or it's like a trade show where my students will invite their friends. Their friends will come and they'll mingle at the different booths. And when you go up to a booth, one of my students will say, like, I'm here today to talk about mental health. I want to encourage you to, seek help when you need it. And they've created a display. They've created take-home materials. They've created everything that you need to kind of like understand this issue of mental health, for example, in a really digestible way that's meant specifically for you. So I've had students cover a lot of topics ranging from, as I mentioned, mental health to environmental issues to thinking about, let's say, other health issues. Health is a really big one. I had a student do a whole campaign on here's what it's like to go to the gym. If you're afraid to go to the gym, here's what you do. So that way they're learning everything they need to sell something, but there's no product in sight. And then for my digital marketing class, they write and promote blog posts. So we have a website, howtocollege.net, where the two is the number 2, howtocollege.net. And they write articles for that website every semester and then promote it to get 1,000 views. So the articles are basically instructing college students on, like, this is how you can, like, kind of survive and thrive in your college years. So I've had students write about eating disorders among student athletes. Again, a lot of mental health issues, sustainable fashion, anything that my students are passionate about that goes into these projects, because I really want my students to actually want to do the projects, do well on them, and then show them off to employers once they graduate.
The blog posts, I've had the chance to read, I think over the year, most of the blog posts, they're compelling to read. The students do extraordinary work. How does that change students when they have to do a project like that?
I think across all of the classes that I teach, and again, these are just the 2 main ones, my thinking is that I give students really big, scary tasks, and then I believe that they can do it. So typically at the start of every semester, I will tell them what the course looks like, and you'll get a lot of trepidation. You'll get students saying, I don't think I can do that. Or that's just the vibe in the class among certain pockets of people. But I really just want to spend the next 16 weeks giving them bit by bit the skills that they need to do that thing, so that by the time they can finally deliver what I'm asking from them, and it's public facing, they're confident, and that they are taking pride in their work. I think that confidence and pride is so important to me, because I want them to be able to go, as I'm mentioning, on the job market and be able to say, I did this and I did it really well. So it's always what is seemingly an insurmountable tasks, but when you break it down into its constituent parts, anybody can write a blog post.
Right.
But can you stick with it? And can you sell it at the end to get those 1,000 clicks? Some people get 1,500 clicks, and that blows my mind every time. Many people are like, they're not super into that task, and that's okay. I find that really difficult too.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun to see. So you talked about entrepreneurship earlier. It's interesting to see how entrepreneurial your students get with trying to achieve 1,000 clicks.
No, that's so true. So I do remember this particular student that we might both be thinking of emailed a bunch of, let's say, bigwigs on campus and asked the bigwigs to click which I really loved. And you clicked and you shared it on LinkedIn, and I'm very grateful that you did that. But I think it is, and something that I'm learning all the time, of like asking people for things and selling yourself. It takes a lot of, belief in yourself that I don't think we're all equipped to do all the time. So having students practice that in this safe environment, that's really fun for me.
So you talk about the digital world, and the students who are in your classroom every day, the students that we have the joy of working with every day, live in a digital world. Here we are on a podcast, right? This is the world that students live in. How do you think social media and the digital world has changed marketing, and how do you see that in your students?
I think that the digital side of marketing is kind of the primary way that we experience the market now. And I think that my students are coming into my digital marketing class knowing that and understanding that. But something that I want to communicate to all of my students is that because the digital world is so saturated right now, you will actually stand out if you talk to people in person. And that we can't forget that IRL, in real life component, exists, and that you stand a better chance at really connecting with the consumer if you give them something literally tangible that they can hold onto with their hands, or make them feel something in real time, not through a screen. And I think this is connecting to an idea that I'm still working out, kind of like from the research side of things, but also for me as a person, is that there's this false distinction between online and IRL, right?
Yes.
When I'm on Instagram and I'm just clicking away on my phone, like that's my real life. So how can we make that seamless? In terms of, your business probably should have an app and it probably should work. But can students or can consumers visit you in person and see and touch the product? Or maybe you offer them something that no other company has ever done within a store. Maybe you invite them to a dinner party. Maybe you set up a pop-up in a new city where nobody ever expected to see you, and you delighted everybody who walked by.
Right.
So I guess my students know that the digital world is so important, but I want them to be able to, market online, but just as well in person.
So for students that you work with, what do they do away from the classroom? You've talked about the classroom experience. What are the kinds of things that they're doing away from the classroom? Internships, research, and how do you work with them on that?
So in general, business students are pretty active outside the classroom. We have a lot of different student societies. So not particular to marketing, there's the Bulls and Bears kind of investing finance club, and others like that, where specific to your interest, you can organize with other students. They have an internship requirement that's keeping them active outside the classroom as well. So before our students graduate, they've been in the business world. They also do research with faculty like myself or other faculty from across campus, as well as taking leadership roles within the classroom. But in terms of kind of where I've been active with my students, it's ebbed and flowed over the years, kind of according to my energy levels and interests. So in previous years, I've done a lot of research with students, which has been fascinating. I have a ongoing collaboration with a student, Allison Grady, who's graduated and is now starting her PhD in clinical psychology today. And we have a manuscript that's being revised for publication in a marketing journal right now. So these are not like busy work activities for students. They're real training for actual life, like she's going to be a researcher. They are real deliverables that have measurable kind of impact on their careers. Something that Allison and I have worked on in the past as well. I'm taking a bit of a hiatus on it right now, but we founded the Body Collective in 2021, talking to student athletes, particularly sportswomen, about body image. And that's, again, the foundation of our research partnership as well. But something that I'm working on right now, the reason for this hiatus for the Body Collective is working with the American Marketing Association. I'm the faculty advisor for it, to market our craft markets on campus. So in the past 2 years, I've worked with the Coffee Lab to organize craft markets. I sell my art there. Other students, faculty, staff sell their art there. And this year, I'm kind of piloting bringing in the American Marketing Association students to help me market the markets. So I just had a meeting right before recording this podcast with a couple of students who are part of that project. And they are leading the vendor relations. They're leading the Instagram content. They're creating new branding for me for our Instagram account. So that's really exciting because, again, it's not busy work. It's actual work with actual impact.
So you talked about Allison and her work as a PhD student. What are some other things that students do? So they come through North Central. They've had the chance to work with you and your colleagues. They graduate. What are some of the things that you're seeing students do when they graduate?
I can't say any one particular path that I see as being dominant, which again goes back to the idea that marketing is everywhere all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
Marketing is similar to my background in journalism, where because we've learned a series of really transferable skills, my journalism classmates and I, and then now my marketing students, are everywhere. So I have, just off the top of my head, a student who's really kicking butt in law school right now, someone who has spent the past 3 years doing software sales, someone who is off tomorrow to start a master's degree in sport management, cool. Somebody who's worked at in marketing with a basketball team, not the major basketball team, but the slightly lower basketball team. Anyway, sure. A good basketball team.
Sure. Yes.
So lots of people doing kind of wherever they've tried to apply their skills. I think that this is such a good degree for that. You can do so many different things with a marketing degree.
Well, and I was going to ask you, you talked about your own experience as being fundamentally different than North Central. For a student who is contemplating earning an undergraduate degree, why should they choose North Central? Why should they choose a degree in marketing or in the School of Business and Entrepreneurship?
Right. So I'll speak to the School of Business and Entrepreneurship right now. So there's a lot of different majors that students can take within the School of Business and Entrepreneurship, and they can pair it with a minor or a double major outside the business school as well. So finance, accounting, human resources, management, marketing, probably missing some international business.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm really excited to be here right now, and I think it speaks to the student experience as well, is to me, this idea of energy and momentum right now. We have a new dean as of last summer, Dean David Green, and he came in with just so many ideas, such a go-getter attitude, and I think he really infused the environment with this sense of anything is possible. So we're on a roll. And I think the way that materializes for me as a faculty, and I think on the student side of things as well, is something that's always been true at North Central, but now it just feels more exciting, is if you come up with an idea, you can do it. Yes. Which is a blessing and a curse for somebody like me because I have so many ideas and only so many hours in the day. Right. But I'll come up with an idea and I'll just say, can I do this? And the answer is always yes. And the answer is always what do you need? So students are involved in so many different capacities. Again, joining these clubs, doing these internships, participating in the craft market. And the idea is, we trust you. We're excited. What do you have to offer? We'd love to see it.
So you've talked about the craft market. You've talked about your own interests in art. It's teasing out the next question. What do you like to do when you're not involved in teaching, in marketing and market research? Tell us what you like to do away from that.
Yes, I love not working. My spare time is very precious to me. Yeah. I love my work, and I don't think I would be happy without it. Like I'm definitely a kind of person who needs work to thrive, but I think everything that I do in my off time fuels the energy that I have here. So the main thing that I do when I'm not at work is making things. And I think my creativity is such that I think, like a lot of people, if I make something in a day, even if it's ugly, I feel better and I'm a better human. And so for the last 5 years, the main kind of creative outlet for me has been making jewelry. So I'm wearing one of my creations right now, and I'll try to describe it for people who are listening and not viewing.
Yes.
But it's a red beaded necklace in kind of I think it's called a lariat style. So it's in a Y shape with a regular necklace and then like a dangly bit coming down. And that's been really fun for me. But right now I've been painting a lot. And I think whatever form of creativity that I'm craving is what I need to be pursuing. And it's been so nice organizing and displaying my work at these craft markets, because it's never been about making money so much as it is about connection. Being able to show somebody what I made, being able to see what somebody else made, and then finding like-minded people has been so lovely. So I'm really excited to see where my painting journey takes me. I think I'm going to make a little art gallery in my office.
Cool.
Like I have a window that looks out into the hallway.
Yes.
And I think I'm going to make a little art gallery in the window and like curate it seasonally. I think that's what I'm going to do.
I love that. I can't wait to visit. I love that.
I will send an email, an all campus email.
Please do. Please do. So what are you painting right now? Can you give us a sneak peek?
So I'm working with a lot of, similar to my jewelry, so this is a red necklace. I'm working with a lot of bold, bright colors, really defined shapes. And I've committed myself to really practicing my abstract painting, which at face value, I thought was going to be easier than it was, which is very humbling. It's been very humbling. So I'm going to hold up for the people viewing, and I'll describe it for the people listening. One of my latest pieces.
Awesome. Look at that.
And it has a brown background with a bunch of squiggly shapes in the middle of it. So different blues, some purple, white, gray. And beautiful. My spouse said that the shapes kind of looked like dolphins, which I really loved. They definitely looked like there's a lot of like movement to them.
Interesting. Yes. Yes.
But they also said that they saw the term nouveau camouflage. And I'll accept that as well.
I love that. I love that.
And that's the fun part about abstract art. It's like it means something to me, but it'll mean something completely different to you, and that's cool and wonderful.
When we've talked away from this recording, I was struck by how you've described. Teaching is a piece of who you are, but it's not who you are. How does that mindset, that balance? I mean, balance is a word that we use an awful lot right now, and maybe sometimes we overuse it. But you really in your life, the way you live your life, there's a balance to how you approach life. How does teaching make you better away from teaching, and how does the painting and making, how does that make you a better teacher? Tell me about that balance, because you really it's inspirational to me.
The balance is necessary, like on a mental health level for me. So I have to actively practice it. Or if we're using the word balance, things get lopsided. I grew up in, I think, a very achievement oriented environment where, because I was good at school and I was good at art, I was praised for those things. And I started to really crave the praise. And I started to really wrap my identity around the things that I was good at. So by the time I got into my higher education and then in my professional life, thriving on success or achievement was just the way that it's like that standard operating procedure, which is really fine until you hit a roadblock. Like I had a rough patch of a couple of years at work here where things weren't going right. And because I'd wrapped my identity so tightly around being a professor, when work isn't going right in that sense, like you don't know who you are. And you feel like because work isn't going right, then you are wrong. So I've had to practice decentering my identity from my work and saying things like, I am a professor, but that's just one part of me, is a way that I stave off those peaks and valleys of my mood. If teaching is important to me, but it's not that important, I can kind of shake off a bad day in the classroom. Everybody has bad days, literally all of us. But I can't take a bad day as maybe a moratorium on, my quality as a human. So actively practicing my art or taking care of my body by going to my fitness classes or spending time with my favorite people is a way for me to be better in all environments, because I don't know, even just thinking on a very practical level, if I'm not so tightly wound at work, that benefits everybody. If it's serious but not that serious, I can be more relaxed in the classroom. If the stakes aren't that high, I think we all have room to kind of play and grow without fear. So I want my students to know that when they come into my classroom, like if they're having a bad day, like we all have bad days, so try again tomorrow. And again, it's just important that I practice that as well for myself.
Seems like it's a good way to model for your students. I would imagine that they very deeply appreciate that.
I really try, because I do see a lot of students come in so tightly wound like I was and like I have been. And I will say this on air because it's in the public record already. My favorite students are the B students. I love all my students, but my favorite students are the B students because they try, but they also have a sense of humor and they also tend to be very nice. They have a different sense of perspective than I did as like an A+ student, of like, yeah, I'm learning something, but also like I'm going to go out and have a great life. And that's inspiring to me all the time. I would so much rather somebody do a pretty good job on their assignment and then like go out with their friends than somebody like pull an all-nighter for an assignment.
So Carly, I promised 2 final questions. And these are questions that we ask really every guest who comes on. And the first question is, what was your first memory? What is your first memory of North Central?
So my first memory of North Central is a little bit anticlimactic in the sense that I was living in Canada and I applied for a bunch of professor jobs. And the way that my job works is that you kind of go where the job market takes you. So first of all, what is North Central College? At the time, that didn't sound like a real place to me. What is Naperville, Illinois? That doesn't sound real. That sounds like storybook names for places. So I apply, and then before I know it, I've had my online interview, and then I get invited for what's called a campus visit. So you come for like 2 days. My first actual real memory of North Central is being on this campus visit and standing in the window of my hotel room. I was at Hotel Indigo in downtown Naperville, for those of you who are familiar. And I was looking out over Naperville's Riverwalk, and it was on a beautiful fall day. And I just felt so excited. Full disclosure, I had just been shortlisted for another job. And then somebody else got the job. So I arrived at this hotel room being like, don't get too invested in this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I had this hope of like, I really hope this works out. And then when I arrived on campus, I was with Dr. Donavive Smith, my marketing colleague. So she was on my hiring committee. She picked me up at the hotel. She walked me to drop me off at campus. And I remember just finding it so lovely and quaint that she was greeting students and students were greeting her along the spine, our main walkway on campus. Like that, it just seemed like a small town, if that makes sense. Our campus as a small town.
Yes.
So the warmth that I experienced on campus mimicked this lovely picturesque vibe that I got looking down at Naperville from my hotel room. And I'm so glad it worked out because now, like, I live here. I see these people all the time. I'm excited to see Dr. Smith this week.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's so lovely to hear the memories of all of our guests on the podcast, you included, of course. Opportunity for shout outs.
Yes, I have one.
Please.
So I wanted to give a shout out to my collaborator and dear friend, Anuja. So we've known each other since 2017. We met at a PhD workshop on a boat. Oh. We were on the Queen Mary boat that's docked in Long Beach, California. And we were PhD students, and I got to see her research and I got to meet her. And then through that experience, I became part of this like group of women, Anuja included, where for some reason we call each other Dan.
Okay.
Short for Daniel.
Okay.
So I'm part of a network of Dans right now. But Anuja is like my main Dan. We, in 2020, realized that we were enjoying the same Netflix show over Twitter. And we decided to collaborate with each other and basically make it so that our research job was to watch TV and write about it. And 5 years later, we have a major publication together. We have another one coming down the pipeline. But I also have one of the best friends I've ever had. So she just finished up working at the University of Southern Denmark, and she has moved back to her home country of India. And so I'm so excited to see where her career goes. And I'm so excited that I get to work with such a lovely human. And I'm shouting her out on this podcast because she listened to a podcast that I was on a couple of weeks ago. And she said, I wish you were on another podcast so I could keep listening to you. And this is my gift to her. I'm on another podcast. But I hope that everyone has the privilege and the joy of working closely with somebody who kind of sees you and who lets you be yourself, because we all deserve that. And that's what I've had with Anuja. So I hope that everyone gets an Anuja in their life. Dan Anuja.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. And Anuja, I hope you enjoyed the podcast with Carly Drake. Carly, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. I think we could talk for another hour if we wanted to. It's such a joy having conversation with you. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you for your team. I'm really glad to be here and glad to speak to the North Central community. I hope everybody knows where to find me on the internet. But if you see my red curly head on campus, please don't be shy.
Dr. Carly Drake, Associate Professor of Marketing, our guest on 1861, the North Central College podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. Glad that you could join us. We will continue the momentum of publishing podcasts on a regular basis to give you an opportunity to learn more about the people who make North Central College what it is. Thanks again, Carly, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.